Have you been? You're busy.
Oh, stacked.
ACA reporting.
It's that time of year, end of year.
It is.
It's ACA's in the headlines.
Big time.
Supreme Court for the 5th time. There's a case in the Supreme Court.
Right.
Affordable Care Act case.
Right.
And it's insurers this time.
Correct. That's on the risk corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've read a little bit about it. I mean, I understand with the risk corridor, the whole philosophy of it. Like whenever the Affordable Care Act was passed, the whole thing was, you think about it, you got insurance carriers. This is the tricky thing, I think, for the government, frankly, because you think about how, like in the beginning of this, they were having to sell insurance carriers on the fact that, all right, listen, we're going to start covering everybody. But think about that. You're publicly traded. They're publicly traded insurance carriers.
Mm-hmm.
What? What do you mean? We're going to start covering everybody? Yeah, with no pre-existing conditions. What? Like, we're just going to take them? Yeah, the people who previously couldn't afford coverage.
Just for clarity, you're saying that they're not going to consider pre-existing conditions.
Correct.
They're going to cover everyone. So even if they're a cancer patient,
that's right,
they're going to cover everyone.
Right. And so back in the day when those people were weeded out. They weren't on the rolls. They weren't accounted for. They weren't everything. So if somebody at the time is paying $300 a month in individual premium, you can't just say, well, everyone can have it at $300. That's not the way that it works. I mean, because, when you're looking at the underwriting of a group plan, it's all based on the claims and the administrative costs. You're like, wait a minute. I know there's going to be a ton of claims that come in. And so the government was like, okay, well, you're right about that. So, but you're also going to get a whole lot more premium. You're going to get a lot more people because we're going to do this individual mandate. They're going to have coverage. And so the carriers are like, okay, I mean, we don't know what this is going to be. So the whole idea was, let's come up with a risk corridor. Okay, let's come up with a number that, and I don't even know if it's on an individual, but I don't think it's on an individual. I think it's on an aggregate basis somehow about, I don't know. But bottom line is, the insurance carrier, you're going to take the first X amount of risk. And then beyond that, if it's worse than that, the government, that's on you. And this is the key thing, I think, for me that's really important, is it was a partnership between the government and companies.
So the private sector, so these large corporations, and then this bureaucratically run.
Correct.
That seems like a mess waiting to happen.
Well, I mean, there's lots of that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what tax credits. Like we got a whole bunch of money last couple of years because tax credits.
Because the government wants to incentivize corporations to do well. They create jobs.
Right. They want to incentivize us to do what they want us to do. So whatever the hell that is, whichever direction the wind's blowing, that's what they want us to do, and that's what we're trying to take advantage of.
Yeah, and they can manipulate taxes. Yeah.
Right.
In order to incentivize the direct, like to your point.
Correct.
Whatever they want you to do, they can give you
with the opportunity zones. Development zones. What do we want you to do? We want you to build some stuff here.
Yeah.
And so this is
exactly what we want. And when we approve it, you can build it here.
Correct. And so this is the same thing, right? And so the whole point, but here's the catch. It went over those risk corridors and they didn't pay. And so they were
and that was part of the agreement.
Right. Yeah, that was totally part of the agreement. And so the carriers are like,
you have these risk pools of people, just so I'm understanding. You have these risk pools of people, and insurance carriers can base their premiums previously based on, previously they could deny coverage altogether for someone with a pre-existing condition.
Correct. Yeah.
But now they have this.
We know you're on a medication that's $75,000 a month. We're not paying for that.
So now they have all these sick people, and they go, okay, well, the idea is we're going to offset the cost of insuring these sick people by requiring all the healthy people to buy insurance.
Correct.
So now your risk pool is balanced out. You're getting premium from someone who's not going to use their plan.
Correct.
But the risk is that those people just take the penalty and don't buy insurance, or there's way more sick people.
Or that the government just says, no, we don't want to do that whole individual mandate.
Yeah. So the government gets rid of the individual mandate. Correct. Now you're stuck insuring all these sick people.
Correct.
And they...
Right. I mean, this is one of the rare times where I find myself defending insurance carriers, because dang, I mean, I think it's like $12 billion, which to me doesn't seem like a lot of money. Right. So, I mean, it's enough to go to court over, but it doesn't seem like a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially over 3 years, because I think it was over several years. I think it was supposed to, to even out the premiums, because I mean, you think about it, like they're just trying to figure out how do we even rate this stuff, and because an insurance carrier's job is to determine risk, pull in the money from everybody, divvy out what claims there were, pay the cost of running that operation, and make a little bit of a profit. I'm not saying that's exactly what they do all the time, but that's the goal. And and if in this type of situation, the claims were going to go way the hell over that. And so the government was like, hey, I'm going to do this. But so the whole thing is, if you can't count on the government to do that, why are you going to sign up for that in the future? Right. You're not going to sign up for that again. And so I think that's what's really on the line.
Like George W. Bush said, fool me once, shame on you.
What were we talking about?
You see, you fooled me once, you can't get fooled again.
I don't know. The war's over, right? It's still over. All right, that's good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. That's good.
So it's. I think playing devil's advocate, people would look at it and go, well, insurance companies, because I even caught myself saying it just now, they didn't lose money, but it's not really about how much insurance. Like, don't take that in the context of how much money they did.
Well, in the first couple of years and beyond that,
they lost money on that, but overall, they probably made.
Right. Well, and this is where I always go, who owns insurance carriers? Go look at your mutual fund. Guess what? You own it.
Exactly.
And I own it.
So it shouldn't be looked at as, but they still made all this money, so I'm not worried about it. It's about getting what you're promised, doing a deal, and saying, okay, you hold up your end of the deal.
It's like your neighbor, lets you borrow the lawnmower and you use it and you don't ever give it back. Your deal was you give it back.
Yeah.
And then, but he's doing real well, and you're like, screw that guy. Let's keep his lawnmower.
Yeah, he's got plenty of money.
Yeah,
so
look at him. He's fine. Don't worry. Do what you're supposed to do. And so don't find a way to finagle out of it. But I mean, it is a dangerous thing, I think, from a long-term perspective, if you start screwing the private enterprises that are trying to partner with government. But there's a reason it's politics, right? And so we'll see. We'll see how. I mean, I think there's a good chance that because it has to do with the way that it's funded. All right, so I can't remember the way. There was an account that was supposed to be designated to pay for it, but then the Republican Congress stripped it out. But then there's another, backdoor provision to get it paid and whatever, and it's not that much money.
I was seeing that the Republicans were going to take the fall for this. It wasn't the Democrats, because the Republicans stripped away the ability to pay the insurance carriers.
Sure. I don't know that anybody really cares. I don't know that anybody's going to take any fall.
Well, I mean, yeah. So in the grand scope of things, like for the government, the $12 billion isn't that much. But then I got to think that creates another $12 billion hole.
Sure.
And the government says we're going to recap. We're going to get this money back, and they do that. They do that through taxes and penalties.
Well, it's like that one senator said, "Hey, baby, $1 billion here and $1 billion there. Before long, we're talking about real money."
Right. Yeah. So it's like they're going to get their money back.
I would give you $100 if you would drink one of these. The whole thing.